Good evening, Cedar Falls, and welcome to tonight's committee meeting. We will start tonight's agenda with I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start with a roll call from Madam Clerk.
Schultz. DeBoer.
Here.
Cruz.
Here.
Harding.
Here.
Ganfield.
Here.
Sayers.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Councilmember Schultz absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Tonight, we will start with Finance and Business Operations Committee and the annual report of the library from Director Kelly Stern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to share our annual report with you. So the library submits even more data than what I shared with you in the annual report to the State Library every year at the end of October, which is why the timing of the annual report to Council is as it is. We had a good year last year in FY22, coming out of COVID lockdowns and living life in a new way. We think we made some really good progress that shows promise that things are getting back to normal. Included in the annual report is a list of our FY22 Board of Trustees. 3 of them have since gone off of the board, Gretchen Boehm and Caitlin Brown, and James Kenyon are no longer on the board, but Lindy Rulofsky and Michael Graziano you recently approved, and they've joined for FY23. I've included in the annual report our value statements that are a part of our strategic plan for 2020 to 2025, and accessibility is one of those. One of our goals is to make our collections and services accessible to everyone in the community. And one major accomplishment to that end was to replace some of the shelving in the youth department this year. As a result of our strategic plan, we learned that if you replace traditional shelving for picture books for very young readers with browsing bins, which are pictured in this slide, where all of the covers are facing forward so that kids can flip through them, it makes it easier for them to make their selections on their own, and circulation goes up. So we'll be tracking those numbers for picture books over the next couple of years to see if that's true for us as well. These are our collection sizes. So if you ever wanted to know how many books does the library have, there are 131,000 plus physical items, which would include books, games, DVDs, and so forth. Over 13,000 downloadable items, and the total then would be 145,000, which is about the right size for a city our size. Our circulation for FY22 is still a little atypical, and I'm going to show you a 5-year comparison in just a minute. We had 89,000 circulations of adult books, over 14,000 young adult books, and 154,000 children's books. So as you can see, children's books account for 60% of our circulation of books. And what that tells us is that families with children are really the bread and butter of public libraries, because children don't come alone most of the time. And they don't take as long to read, so that's understandable. Video recordings accounted for 44,000 circulations. Audio recordings, you can see, periodicals, and other physical items would include things like games, things from our library of things, which includes tech devices, garden tools, musical instruments, just a number of things. And then our total physical circulation was 330,000. All this shows us, if you look at the little chart on the left, that books still account for 80% of the physical circulation. So all these predictions that e-readers would replace paper books hasn't happened yet. And there are probably a number of reasons for that. Some people still prefer paper. It's portable. It doesn't rely on electricity or technical know-how. But also there's an aesthetic to handling a physical book as well that I think a lot of people are still attached to. So they're still popular. E-circulation went down some this year, and you'll see in our 5-year comparison when I get to that slide. 33,000 ebook circulations, 119 videos. We don't have very many downloadable videos right now, but we're always looking for streaming services that are library friendly, that also have popular things that people are going to want to watch. The market hasn't caught up with the need yet when it comes to streaming video for libraries. And then downloadable audio is about 20,000. So total circulation of physical and downloadable materials was over 384,000. And then if you add into that the number of database uses as well, the total collection use was over 419,000 in FY22. So here's what the last 5 years have looked like. FY18 and FY19 were both entirely before COVID. We sort of peaked in our total collection use at 529,000 in FY19. And then FY20 included 3 or 4 months during lockdown. So FY20 was the first atypical year, and then FY21 was entirely in the time of COVID. So that our numbers went down some, but in FY22, they're really bouncing back. So when we hit our peak at 530,000 in FY19 and we're at 419 in FY22, that's a lot of progress to go from where we were pre-COVID and to be so close to that again. We're always looking for community relationships and ways that we can work with the community to meet needs. One of the ways that we've done that in FY22 was the 7 Blackhawk County public libraries came together to bring Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to children under 5 who live in Blackhawk County. And we've done that. Registration opened in June of this year, and we already have 1,887 children registered, and even between June and now, 152 children have graduated. So that means they were 4 when they registered. They've already aged out of the program. But we have new registrations that we're approving every month. So the children just kind of cycle through. We're still fundraising for that project. The total cost is estimated to be for 5 years about $310,000. And so we'll be fundraising all 5 years of our first 5 years of the program. One of our values statement is about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in FY22, 7 of our library staff members took a class from Library Journal called How to Build an Anti-Racist Library Culture. And as part of that course, we developed projects, we planned programs that will appeal to a more diverse audience. You know, we hear that Cedar Falls isn't as diverse as maybe some other communities in Iowa. But if we offer programs that appeal to a more diverse audience, then we'll be more likely to have a diverse audience attend. We also evaluated our policies to look for hidden biases. One of the things we did was we replaced all of the pronouns with gender-neutral pronouns. And we're always looking for ways to serve a greater portion of the community, especially those that we've underserved historically. That has been a life changer for several of us on the staff. We also, our youth librarian worked with the Iowa Library for the Blind to get Braille overlays for the story walk that's at Big Woods Lake, so that visually impaired children can also enjoy the story walk. And that's been done. One of the founding principles of libraries is that we espouse intellectual freedom. It's the reader's choice, what they want to select to read, view, and listen to, and parents for their own children. So to that end, when we select materials, we select for our whole diverse community, which represents lots of different kinds of belief systems. And we have made into policy the statements that address how a public library serves the entire community with American Library Association's policies, such as their intellectual freedom, ALA freedom to read statement, and the Library Bill of Rights. So those are our guiding principles. We also are committed to discovery, education, and learning. A lot of that happens through the programs that the library offers, which are all free. And we're probably best known for the summer library program and story times, but we do a lot of other stuff as well. We bring in visiting authors for author talks. We offer STEM programs for all ages, Minecraft for teens, gardening and seed saving programs, just a lot of different things. And Summerfest was our kickoff to summer reading. The picture on this slide at the bottom is a foam party, which we tried for the first time, and the kids had a blast. We also are looking to make what we do more purposeful. We always try to be purposeful as we plan programs and collections, but finding the connectedness in that has sort of happened organically. We've offered gardening programs to local and aspiring gardeners for a long time, but that led to the library offering a seed library, which is a place where you can borrow seeds and then share seeds from your harvest at the end of the growing season. We have a seed librarian. Dan Meyer is the person who heads that up. And after the seed library was initiated, he mentioned that it would be really nice to have a place to do hands-on stuff during gardening programs. We're really, we love our location downtown, but there's not a lot of green space on our block. So we created some with some raised garden beds that we used some foundation funds for. And so now the people who attend gardening programs can do hands-on gardening and seed saving as a part of that. And then the produce is shared with the food bank. Then our youth department got a STEM grant that provided them with a worm farm. And families can sign up to feed the worms. And the compost that these worms create goes back into the raised garden beds to nourish the next year's plants. And now they've taken it even a step further. And this year, the STEM librarian, Katie Nedwick, did a program about how pumpkins decompose. So there's a photo there of the pumpkin that is still in the youth department decomposing. And when it's finally ready, that's going to go into the raised garden beds as well to nourish the plants. So we have these various programs that connect and offer some breadth in learning opportunities. And then also in FY22, we acquired a portable kitchen. We've always wanted to offer cooking programs and cooking demos, but we've had to go outside of the library to do that in the past. The Charlie Cart project is a project that allows schools and libraries to purchase portable kitchens on wheels. And we worked with the health department to learn what additional procedures we needed to follow to be compliant with them, in addition to the training that we got from Charlie Cart. But this is going to further extend learning opportunities. So people can come to gardening classes, they'll harvest the produce, Dan will teach them about seed saving, and then he can do cooking demos with what they've grown on the Charlie Cart. Our teen librarian also plans to teach basic cooking skills to teens with this, and we're also going to use it. I talked about how we're trying to offer more diverse programs. One opportunity we see is to bring in local chefs and restaurant owners who specialize in a particular world cuisine to do cooking demos of those cuisines and teach us about the culture as well while they're doing that. So we're excited about that. Here's an overview of summer reading. Before COVID, I think our highest registration was about 1,500 children. We're back up around 1,000, so again, that's progress towards what was normal for us. We took the book bike out this summer to do story times in the park. I did checkouts while the youth librarian did story times, and that was very popular. And just for your information, we do hundreds of programs every year. Thousands of people attend. We had 52,000 visitors to the library in FY22. and lots of computer uses as well, but that's going down. And coming soon, our library's brand is being worked on right now. You approved the contract for that, so the work started in early this month. We're going to continue to expand our partnerships and look for new partners and continue to add accessibility enhancements to the library, greater diversity in programs, and of course the food education with the Charlie Cart. So public libraries have always been a place for people to gather, a third space. You know, your first space is your home, your second space is your workplace, third space is where you spend your leisure time. And so public libraries have, they play a role in people's lives in that way, as a place to gather, to connect, to explore, to learn, to find out what you're passionate about, and to pursue that. So we're all there to help you do that along the way. Do you have any questions? Thank you so much for your time. Before COVID, council, the annual report to council was always at the library. We would like to reinitiate that next year, if that works for you all. So you'll be getting an invitation next year.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Director Stern. All right, now we'll switch over to Public Safety
That
Committee.
works for me. I don't know that we'll need that, but we'll switch into our Public Safety Committee, where we have one item on the agenda tonight, an opportunity for our Public Safety Director, Bertie, to enumerate what we're doing in implementation of suggestions from the Racial Equity Task Force last year. So, Director Bertie, thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. What we're here to do tonight is to give a short presentation about those recommendations from the Racial Equity Task Force from the fall of 2021. I was a liaison to that task force, and I see some of the members of the task force and the Human Rights Commission here tonight, so I want to thank them for attending. They submitted their recommendations in the fall of 2021. Those recommendations were in education, housing, and policing. I was the assistant chief and then the police chief for the 6 years preceding Chief Howard. So I helped with the putting together a strategic plan. I was a liaison to the Racial Equity Task Force. So Chief Howard has put together an outline of information and supporting documents for tonight. So I'll turn it over to Chief Howard. We're available to answer any questions, and then I think you'll see how their recommendations lay over our 5-year strategic plan in many ways. So.
Good evening. Oh boy. So I tried to make the outline as detailed as I could, just to leave more time for questions from y'all. So I'll try to go through them fairly quick. The first one being continue to focus on training practices, peacekeeping, de-escalation, humanizing people suspected of committing crimes. Really ties in with goal 3 of the strategic plan as far as continuing of training. CIT is always a big part of our training, which has to do with people in mental health crisis and intervening. How do we talk to them, ways we approach them. This is a national program. I put information in there about that. This is something we're sending all of our people to. We're well above 65% of our people have now gone to that. The rest of us still have to go, but we also do training for that every year for all of our people, as mental health has become an every evening call for us. De-escalation training, probably the biggest part, most important part of our training that we do every year, that we do every month on the police side and the fire side. Being able to be in charge of that committee this year, along with Captain Zalondek, we have really focused on scenario training this year, which goes a long way with teaching our officers and our personnel what we used to call verbal judo, de-escalation, how to deal with people upset, understanding why people are upset. I think a lot of it helps officers, gives them more tools on their belt besides the physical ones to help de-escalate situations and maybe understand people or where people are coming from. Education's a big part of that, in having them understand that all of us have different backgrounds, and many times people are upset. It's not directed at us. It might be directed at us, but it's not about us, and these scenarios really help with that. So we really focus our scenarios on these type of situations that aren't easy. situations where we're screaming at people. If you're a role player, you're screaming, you're cussing, the things that they'll see on the street in a situation where these scenarios help, again, build their tools of how to de-escalate these situations. A big focus of our training. The second one, create both in-person and electronic process for submitting complaints. This is a work in progress. One of the things we have, our old policy used to be you had to come in, you had to sit down with a supervisor and make a formal complaint. Very intimidating, obviously, and I think a very outdated process. That's not true anymore. We will email the form to somebody if they can't come in. We will also mail it to them. They can fill it out at home. They can come in and turn that in at their leisure or email it in. Excuse me. And as with any complaint, any formal complaint, a mandatory internal investigation has to happen once that happens. So we're expanding that. As far as being able to do it online, we're not to that point yet, but we do accommodate anybody that can't come in now, and they don't have to sit down and meet with a supervisor. Number 3, increased community policing and immersion policing. Really, it ties in a lot to Goal 6, the strategic plan, and engaging the community. And I listed some of the things that we are in process of doing or we are going to do, something that Director Birdie and I have talked about quite a bit here in the last couple months. We talked about it quite a bit through the summer, but I was in an acting role, and we really couldn't move forward until we had a chief, whether that was me or not. But some of the new ones here that we'd be looking at, of course, is expanding our open house maybe to twice a year. It's very popular. People come in, see who we are, how we operate. The Citizens Academy, something we're both strong on, something we both agree on, something we want to do, where it's a split academy where you learn fire stuff. You'll also learn policing in just kind of a short Citizens Academy during the evenings, also giving exposure. The liaisons to Community Main Street, which I will stay part of, and then College Hill Partnership, which Captain Herenstein will be taking over. We also want to reach out to some of our neighborhood associations and really start seeing if we can have some invitation to those once in a while where we could also be present and continue to build those partnerships. Engaging with the Human Rights Commission is a big part of it. I hope they continue to invite me once in a while. I met with them here a few months ago. Very enlightening. I know I'm going to talk about recruiting here in a minute, but excuse me, Ms. Sonia Bach has reached out to me. Her and I are going to work together on some recruiting issues come this spring. She's also got other members that are going to participate in that. I am very thankful for that. So we just haven't set a date. We decided we'd wait till after the holidays to do so. Number 4, officers taking cars home. We do allow this for meals. We share cars. We're not a facility. We're not an agency that officers have their own cars. But we do, any officer that lives in town, he or she's allowed to take their vehicles home for meals, whatever, for breaks. But as far as taking them home, I get the community concept, I get the neighborhood concept, and how great it looks to have an officer engaged in his or her neighborhood. We just can't allow, we don't have enough cars. But we do allow vehicles to be taken home. Some of our recruiting, actively recruiting, as I've already, and to increase the diversity of our police force. I started this as soon as I was offered the opportunity as an acting. One of the first things I did was asked to start a recruiting video, which I believe all of you have seen. If you haven't, let me know. I'll send you the link. I also worked with city staff to build up a new pamphlet that we can hand out as we are going to actively pursue recruiting. I think one of the mistakes we've made in the past is that we do everything electronically, and that's not fair to all our communities. Not everybody has the resources to receive that. So the more active we are, the more physically going out and actually doing some old school recruiting will benefit us in this area. One of the things I did this last time was I targeted athletic departments at many colleges throughout Iowa, throughout southern Minnesota area. And the reason is because of our program. It takes really physical fitness in what we do, and I love targeting the athletic programs because it is a diverse group of people who I hope would love the interest or at least show some interest in the type of program that we have. I'm going to continue to do so. I had a great response from athletic directors. At least building a database. Most of them wanted me to realize it was June and the kids were all gone, but I still reached out to them. So this next time when we start recruiting again this spring, I've got this database. Another thing we have done with our new website is there's a notify me page or a tab on there where you can actually go there, hit that, put in your email, and then you'll be notified immediately as we start advertising to test again. Colleges are important to us because we're one of the agencies in the state, and there's not a lot of them that we require 60 college credits to be an applicant for us. That's important to us. I have lots of reasons why. I would explain if you need to know, but it ties into use of force, and the higher the education, the studies have shown the less use of force that's used. It's more about de-escalation, understanding, and all that. So a lot of things in play for that. I hope we can continue to do so. I'm going to take Ms. Bach up on her offer this spring, and we're going to work together. She also works at a couple different colleges where she says she has some great ideas for us as far as diversifying our police force. So, number 6, invest in retention of our officers, live, work in the Cedar Valley. Again, ties in with Goal 7 of the strategic plan, wellness of our officers. The ones that we have control on here are things like SWAT, training instructors, career advancement. These are where it's our role to make sure that we're constantly offering opportunities to our officers. I know for maybe people not in law enforcement, these don't seem like that important. But most of us, when we first get into this job, we want to be a trainer. We want to train people. We want to be a firearms instructor. We want to be a SWAT member. So we have to make sure these opportunities continue. And I don't want to call it age out, but as our officers become more and more mature officers, it's nice to see some of these younger officers get opportunities in these areas because that's how we keep them. Wellness is also a big part of it. I think we're very blessed. We have great equipment. We have a great replacement program from equipment. Another thing that's important to officers is that they see their equipment being replaced a lot. I'm talking things like every 4 years when we get a new bulletproof vest because they expire. Our weapons, the things that we constantly replace. That's not true for all agencies. We're very blessed to make sure. And that's a big part of officer wellness when officers know that the equipment they have, the cars that they drive, it's a big part of officer wellness. We have a great weight room. We continue to add to it. The director has added to it every year we've been there so far in our new facility. I hope we continue to do so. We have a ton of people who are very, very physically fit. I always say the donut days are gone, which that's not true for all of us. But many of our younger people are really, really into fitness. It shows. They use this weight room. We need to continue to expand that. And then there's things outside of what we can do that the city offers that are also big on wellness and retention. The EAP program, tuition reimbursement is really being used by several of our people right now. I use it as a recruiting tool. When I'm up at UNI, I talk to students constantly about, the benefit that we offer. I love it when a student joins us early. They haven't finished their degree yet, and they already joined the world of law enforcement, and then we continue to help them finish their degree. Competitive pay is a big one. This is something we are challenged with all the time. The Metro is an area that draws people and takes our people constantly. We know that. We've got to stay competitive with them, and I hope we do. And then the last part, a data review. I put all these in your packet. I spent a ton of time on these. We don't exactly have a program that just does this for us. So I had to get everything compiled, and then by hand I calculated everything. So with the traffic stops, I just tried to do 3 years. And then on the arrest, anytime I say that you're going to measure arrests and look at the data as far as race, gender, you really have to look at arrests that has officer discretion. And what I mean by that is where officers make the final decision on whether this person should be arrested or not. Because that's what we want to know, right? We want to know if an officer's profiling. Is he or her using race as a reason for their arrest in any way? So a theft at one of our department stores, we really have no discretion on that. Once we show up, if the victim says, "Hey, I want this person arrested," we don't get to have discretion on that. That's an arrest. Many of our assaults, especially domestic, mandatory arrest. They don't give us discretion on those. So the arrests I included in here, your OWIs, your public intoxes, disorderly conducts, areas where officers truly have discretion to make the final decision on whether somebody should be arrested or not. Traffic stops, traffic stops, I gave you the data there. Anytime you do these type of stats, what I want to say about this is it's really difficult to read anything from it without doing a ton of more homework, because none of us know, at least I don't know, what the makeup is of Cedar Falls' population at any time during the day, nor do I know the diversity of our population during any time of that day. And then to go back to these 6,000 to 7,000 traffic stops a year and run each driver and determine where they're a resident at, and whether they're a local resident, and determine if it was a Cedar Falls resident stop. So what we look at are the overall numbers. And are they close to what we see in the Cedar Valley or in Iowa itself as far as population? And looking at them, I thought ours were pretty fair. Nothing that stood out for me in any way. So really, I know I went through that fast, but that's why I put it all in the packet, so you had time to review it. And if you have any questions for the director or I.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate that data as well as the response there. Hopefully that is also appreciated by our residents. I'll open it up real quickly for any council members that have questions. Councilmember DeBoer.
On number 3, you kind of highlighted on the National Night Out. Now, in the past, I think that's the event that we used to do out in partnership with Target.
Yes.
I don't know if it got altered somewhat because of COVID, but I hope we can get back to that where we do one community event like that instead of trying to send an officer to all these different neighborhoods like they did last year.
Yeah, well,
I really missed that.
Well, we tried some new ideas, some things that the other communities were doing. We didn't see a lot of success in it. We, along with the mayor, have agreed we're going to go back to the way we used to do it, partnering up with probably Target. We maybe even will include it. We've even talked about maybe including it in our fall open house. We haven't decided yet, to where we use the field beside us, use our parking lot, and even offer the same National Night Out using our facility. Hasn't been decided yet, but we are going back, I do know, to the way we did it before these last 2 years.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other council members have questions?
Chief Howard, can you, I think I know the answer to this because I sat on the Racial Equity Task Force. When you made the comment of you don't know the, I guess the diversity, the breakdown of diversity in our community at any time of the day. Can you explain that better? Like why, because, we've got our census data, but why does census data not count as to what you're saying?
Well, we have a big industrial park. We have lots of businesses in our community. We have shopping centers in our community. We have, at nighttime, we have a great nightlife in our community. So we don't really know who's here visiting, who's not visiting, who's here passing through town. And it's really hard to determine who we are stopping on traffic stops. If it was a community that's completely gated in and then you're only allowed to drive on these streets if you're from these streets, and we all sat stationary where we could appear in cars and see who's actually driving them, then these statistics would be exact and would be very, what I mean is without looking at each driver individually, what I mean by that is their residency. I can't say it will ever mirror any community's actual diverse makeup as far as residents go. So when we look at these, we know that according to 2022, around 88% of Cedar Falls is white. So are we seeing the majority of our traffic stops, which we are by a great deal, are white? And that's where I think you have to look at them in general and say, is that where we're at? And that's what we did. And that's what I was able to show on those stats.
Thank you. Can I make one more comment? Again, as a person who sat on the Racial Equity Task Force as a council member, and I appreciated all the work that not only citizens of the Cedar Valley put into that, because it was a lot of time for our citizens to give. I also appreciated the leadership at that time. It was Chief Birdie who sat with us, and to sit and have what are called uncomfortable conversations. I appreciate that, and I also appreciate. For me, as a worker in the workforce, leadership has to take and invest in responsibility and change and accountability. And I believe that we have leadership in our public safety department who do that. So thank you for that.
All right.
I have one question.
Councilmember Sykes, go ahead.
Chief Howard, have we looked into any more having a social worker or psychologist be on duty 24 hours a day. The thing that always worries me is a lot of the people have mental issues, and the thing that I worry about most is suicides, because that's so terrible. If we looked more into that, I'd like to have somebody ready to go 24 hours a day to be on those situations.
You know, we've had Elevate come speak. I've not been involved in any conversations. Maybe the director can answer that better, but I've not been involved in any conversations about making it 24 hours. It's, do I have 4 hours? Because I'd love to talk mental health and what my officers spend their time doing, and they're excellent at it, and they're very passionate about it. So I know exactly where you're coming from. I've not been involved in any of those conversations as far as that. We do have Elevate. They're wonderful. They are a phone call away, but they are not riding with us.
Okay, there you go.
I personally will take that as a takeaway to follow up with you as well. I have one question for you just in regards to number 4 and the inability to take extra cars home. I have no idea, this might be a foolish suggestion, but is there any interest from our officers of having magnetic placards or a yard sign, for instance, that says a proud member of the CFPD or the CFFD? I have no idea. Just something to think about.
I doubt it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
They're very proud members. They're wonderful men and women. I think when they're home, they like to be home.
Appreciate
I'm just
that as
being
well.
honest.
No, I appreciate that frank answer. I don't think we have any other questions, so I thank you, Chief Howard. Thank you, Director Birdie, for your responses there. And I don't think we need a motion to adjourn. Nope, I'll call us adjourned, and we'll reconvene momentarily for our regular city council meeting.